good tomorrow, but I gotta go pick rocks tomorrow.
Well, mine yesterday when I got home.
Yeah, I seen that.
Thursday, last Thursday.
I think it was Friday, I brought the big mower home because I was gonna mow the ditch. I thought, hell, I'm gonna mow the yard a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Hell, I had to mow it again, I had so much.
It's 6:30. Let's open up the Hillsboro City Commission. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 6:31, and we'll go ahead and open it up for the public hearing for the Riverwalk rezoning block 1, lots 3 and 4. Is there any comments out there? Anything you want to say, Pat?
I'll move to approve for the first reading of the rezoning of block 1, lots 3 and 4 to
I'll second it.
R3.
On 8-8, petition to rezone potential first reading.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind changing your motion to moving to approve the petition that Pat filed for rezoning. That's all we need now, and then we can get 8.8 later.
I'll move to approve the petition.
I'll second it.
Okay, Levi. You made
Yes.
motion, second. Dave?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Any yes for me? Okay, I guess we can close the public hearing for the rezoning of Riverwalk Block 1, lots 3 and 4. Moving on, have all the commissioners had a chance to take a look at the last minutes of the last commission meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Dave makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Paul seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carries. Presentation of bills. Have all the commissioners had a chance to review the bills and sign? Could I get a motion for the bills?
I'll move to approve the bills.
Levi moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. City Commissioner reports. Paul, let's start with you tonight.
Okay, on the economic development side, they didn't hold a meeting last month, so there's nothing at the meeting that obviously that was shared. I know they're doing a lot of things, but they just didn't have enough. There's too much going on that week, that night with sporting events and things like that. On the cemetery side, I know there was some concerns on that during Memorial Day, but I think they got it caught up to speed. I haven't heard anything more since Memorial Day. How about you, Ashley? Have you had any more? So I think they kind of got caught off guard there a little bit with what they got into, but I think it's a lot better than it was obviously a couple days before Memorial Day. Nothing on the electric, and then the personnel that's on the agenda yet for armory and cleaning. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Paul. Mike?
Nothing that isn't on the agenda.
Dave?
The only thing I have is, Jim, what do you think we can do about getting that road down to the ball diamond, get some calcium chloride on there before the celebration? From the street by the county all the way into the ball diamond, because it's gonna be a dust ball down there. And
Okay. They need to be bladed first, I imagine.
pardon?
They need to be bladed first, I suppose.
I can talk to Corey tomorrow when I go to work and see if they can blade it for us.
I think they're lining up product for the south side of Hillsboro, the private homeowners down there. Maybe I can talk to them and get a name, and we can get that on, so when they come to town and do that, they can do, how about the swimming pool?
The pool, we were gonna wait. They're supposed to meet this week about putting more gravel over there, but then we do at the same time.
Okay,
I thought they were gonna meet this week, but
you're gonna want that done again?
we'll do that again.
Maybe we'll wait till the pool is ready to go and then we'll do that.
So will we do anything with it by the
I think
weekend of the celebration, or is it gonna be?
I can call that company if you want. And
Yeah, and I don't know if they're gonna do that down there before then anyway, so.
Okay, if we can at all get it done, I think it would be,
I have to double check with Kathy, but I thought they were gonna have a special meeting today or one of these
Okay.
days this week to get gravel. So
cause I think they got activities down there, don't they?
we
So
do.
who's doing that down at the pool?
The park board is gonna put gravel.
Oh, okay.
But then we usually we did the parking lot different things. I think that was 1,200 or 16 last year when we did that.
I have to look. I don't remember. That was
Hmm.
a long time ago.
Why don't you let me know contacts, or if you wanna talk to somebody,
Yep.
just keep in touch and let
Yep,
me know.
I can do that.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
So the pool hopefully will start filling tonight, keeping our fingers crossed. They were able to get big pool cleaned out and everything, and the little pool will not be open for a while, or the kiddie pool. We've got a lot of repairs to do on that. Being that it was the original pool, it still has a lot of work to get done on it. So we can isolate and open up just the big pool. We are hoping if the weather holds and we can find our new covers wherever they are in transit and the weather stays up, we can get it warm enough so that we can open by this weekend. That is the goal. No guarantees, because without the cover it doesn't heat as well. So as far as employees, we're doing okay somewhat there. We may not be open all the time, but we're going to try our best. I do need an approval if we want to keep the rates the same, or if we want to change. The recommendation that I would give is that we'd keep them the same for this year. So I'd make a motion to approve that we have the rates the same for the pool.
So you're making a motion?
Yep.
I'll second it.
Dave seconds. Any other discussion? Okay, Paul,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Any yes for me? And I noticed Gary did put some good pictures out on Facebook about the pool and stuff, so got some good contacts to Gary and stuff, so.
I think that was Sarah put it out, and then he copied and put it out too. So,
Good job, Gary.
I would also like to get your approval to see if we get some bids to get the pool painted on the outside and possibly the inside. Water did quite a number on it, and it is time. So, and I don't to get an estimate and see if we can get that done. In the past we had enough summer employees to help with that, but I don't think we have that in this case to keep the pool up and running and try to get it painted. So if you're okay with that, and
Yep.
And I'll ask for forgiveness because that's what I had to do. Before we could even think about filling a pool, we had needed to sandblast the old pool, so you already approved the bill, but it was $4,500 to sandblast the small pool. So I'm asking forgiveness on that one, that I gave the okay without coming to the meeting for that. So, but that should be it. Jack has got some more work to do on fixing the concrete on the little pool on the north side of it. That's fallen in, and hopefully we can get that fixed. It's going to take, like I said, a while to get that fixed. Rec district is up and running. We've got quite a few kids, a lot of programs going on. Numbers are down a little bit, but we've had some more trickling in. And a thanks to Paul and Sheila and the 4-H for planting the flowers out around town. And that should be all I have for tonight.
Thanks, Levi. I just want to, from the airport perspective, I got an email from Larry. Don Hanson is retiring off the Airport Authority Board, and so they want to go ahead and approve a new person. But in the meantime, they discovered that they should probably change their bylaws so that the advertisement goes out for the new authority members, and then it comes to the city commission. So they're gonna take and change the bylaws for the airport authority. This is the quote from him: "Upon review of our bylaws, we realized that we were not including the city in our authority board member nominating process. We have amended our bylaws and feel that it's now better meets the intent of the state statutes. From here on out, we feel it is better for the authority to advertise an open position in the local paper, allow people to apply, and then bring forward the nomination to the city for approval." So they went through that process, and they're changing it, and they do have a name that they nominated, and it's Devon Coat. And it meets the airport requirements, and he's a qualified member and stuff, so they just wanted to let us know that. And they had, the authority, airport authority had a unanimous approval of it, and they wanted to bring that candidate to the city for approval. So if I can get a motion to accept their nomination for the new board member, and we'll take and finalize it for them. Levi moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike seconds. Any discussion?
How's that spelled?
It's Devoncote is the last name.
It's Devon
I got it
Cody.
right. That's what I think it was, Cody.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Devon Cody.
Devon, D-E-V-O-N. Okay, so let's mix it up. Mike,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
and a yes for me. And that's all I have. Moving on to Jim.
Nothing tonight.
John?
Other than the agenda, fairly quickly, Charlie Stock reached out to a few people, and the bottom line is that our municipal ordinances are prosecuted by State's Attorney Stock in the Trail County District Court, and there's a court administrator who is asking us to have a contract. So we will have a contract that we will need to approve, but we're also being asked for the commission to pass an ordinance approving what we already have, which is that the Trail County State's Attorney and Trail County Law Enforcement prosecutes our municipal ordinances. I could pass around a draft of an ordinance that JR put together quickly, and the actual court services contract says nothing other than what we have been doing and will continue to do. And I guess relevant to that contract, of any fines that are paid, the state gets 60%, the county gets 40% for the work, and because we don't have the work, why we get 0%, consistent with what we've previously done. But Mr. Iverson, one of the court administrators, wants his form of contract plus the ordinance. So with that in mind, I thought we could wait to sign the contract until after next meeting, and I can circulate the standard contract to anyone that wants to see it before then. But for tonight, so that we can make the July 1 starting deadline or starting term, we could use a first reading of the ordinance to say that we will approve the court service contract.
I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 530.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Dave?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
And a yes for me.
Yeah, and if you're thinking of moving kind of quickly without circulating the contract, it just came up on June 3rd, the issue of needing the contract. We previously had an agreement with the county, but the court administrator wanted something different. So thanks for the first reading, and I'll get copies out to anyone that's interested, and we'll get the second reading done next time, and we'll be in line for making everyone happy by July 1. That was it.
Anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Ashley?
Sorry. Out of the 716 maps that were sent out on May 17th for public input on the street project, we have only received 32 maps back. So if you have one and would like to get your input in, please send them back to City Hall. And then the 1881 extraction tax incentive paperwork is off to the North Dakota Department of Commerce, so just waiting to hear back on that. And then I keep getting asked, are we gonna fix is the road by Terry's Brewery gonna be fixed before Hillsboro Days? Yes?
It's a tough dance floor.
I've gotten asked that a couple times.
Scheduled for Thursday.
Okay, scheduled for Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
All we can do.
Oh, one more thing. Can we amend the agenda to add the Armory cleaning application on to the agenda, because I forgot.
Can I get a motion to take and change the agenda to add the contract for,
I'll make the motion.
Mike makes a motion, do I have a second?
All second?
Paul seconds, any other discussion? Let's see, Levi,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
any yes for me. Okay, anything else, Ashley?
Nope, just that.
Okay, on to the sheriff's office, anything from? Okay. And Steve, I've asked Steve a couple things to talk about, but I'll let him roll into a couple of those issues right now.
All right, we got two things. I'm gonna do 8.2 first, which is the water main. I just need a signature on the water sewer project. We got a contract, and then we placed in the contract binder. I got the contractor to sign it already, and then final contracts are distributed to contractor Hillsboro and then funding agency. We'll get a copy of it. It's pretty much just the same. It's just stating that you're agreeing on the stipulated price in the bid tab.
I'll move to approve the signing of the
We have a
water
motion.
main project.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Dave seconds. Any other discussion?
Can you just refresh where that actually runs? Because I was kind of, I'm not exactly sure.
Two parts to it. There's a water project and a sewer part. And the water is gonna cross the interstate.
Where does it start from then? Right on their side of the interstate then, or from the water plant?
The water main goes all the way up to the water plant.
Okay,
But the part we're gonna replace is just on the other side of the interstate and then bore under interstate and tie onto the west side of the interstate.
okay.
A couple years ago, there was two lines underneath there and one of them failed. So we ran a new line across through the campgrounds. And then months after that was up and running, the second line underneath the interstate failed.
That was water now.
Water,
Okay.
treated water is coming into town. So now what we're doing is putting in the redundant line across, so that we'll have two lines across the interstate now to bring water across. That's one phase of the project. The other one is to replace the sewer force main that goes all the way up to lagoons. One of the tie-in points is by the railroad tracks. It's gonna go from the railroad tracks underneath the river and into the park. And then the other one is just south of the park, there's a lift station. There's gonna be a bore underneath that river. Them two lines will tie together and be a force main all the way up to the lagoons. It's getting replaced.
Where does it go through in the park then? Just,
It follows the road pretty much on the edge of the road out there. In '99, we refurbished the lagoons and put riprap
Thank you.
Reinbach is doing the, construction. He's gonna, he has his own boarding equipment, so he'll bore the rivers in the interstate, or in the interstate and the highway. But when he gets into the park, he'll just bore all of the park. The bid was to open cut it, but since he has his own equipment, there's a pretty good chance he might just bore it all, and it'll be easier to, clean up afterwards and get it all done. I talked to Neil today, and he said the pipe is, last week he heard from his supplier and they're 8 weeks out on delivery still. So that would've been a week ago, so maybe 7 weeks. And what they're gonna do is they're hoping to get the pipe in July. It's gonna take them a month to fuse it all together and then start boring in August. And it'll all be staged down in the park.
And we have to have something done by the time the railroad, we had to do a special lease, just refresh my memory on that.
Yep, we had a 1-year permit to tie onto the force main that's near the lift station that's on the railroad property, and that runs out end of September.
So Neil's gonna be able to take and make the,
Yep, we'll make that his priority to make that crossing first and get on the railroad tracks, and then the rest of it, there's no restriction on timeline,
okay?
except for his completion date.
Completion date.
October.
Okay, where was I? Paul,
You just asked for questions.
Yep.
You have your first and your second.
so.
Any more?
Okay, Dave?
Yes.
Eli? Yes. Paul?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Any yes?
And then 8.1 is the citywide paving project. You wanna take that, Terry, or you want me to?
Yeah, one of the two items that we wanted to do, so, John, just so you know, again, we can have a 3-person committee appointed by the commission. I talked to Tom Olson, since we wanted to get a business that has a corner lot. He's willing to do it. Les Hurt is also another member down in Royal, since we have some problems with the drainage there. And Dave, you had talked to another person that Sarah's husband that said that they would do it. So,
He volunteered, yeah.
we would like to take and make that a formal request then, John, to set that committee up. And that committee will be responsible for reviewing the different special assessment formulas and come back with recommendations basically and help explain the reasoning behind it when we have future town halls. And did I get everything right, Dave?
Mhm.
And then the second thing that I asked Steve to talk to was to come up with some numbers. So when we start talking about $12 million to take and repave the streets of Hillsboro, I wanted to kind of get a baseline of what it cost in the past to do it. The past to do it, as well as, what it would cost for us to take and redo all the streets, say this go-around, if they were broken up so bad. So, a rough order of magnitude on that was 34 million if we had to go in and take and do it this time. The other number that they were able to find, and I think Ashley helped with this, is that the 7 million was what we spent in 2007, but I don't know how many of the streets were done at that time.
3 million.
3 million, I'm sorry. And so that was kind of a difference, but we have to look up and find out how many of the streets were actually done in '07.
You wanna compare the numbers, in '07, it was a citywide, it might have, I think every street was probably, I remember Jim, but it was $3 million at the time, and then back then, Riverview and Prairie View were not included in that, they were new developments.
There was streets downtown that weren't done.
What was there?
Yeah, and a few streets around town, but I think the big difference was nothing but edge milling. Whereas this is for milling of everything, isn't it, on,
Yep.
yeah.
Yes, no, we just probably.
So that'd be a big difference.
If you break it down to just the paving part, the paving was 9 million, and that was probably more
Yeah, I thought it would be important for the citizens of Hillsboro to know, what the investment in the past has been, so that as we start to debate and talk about the 12 million, now we have a kind of a data point for us to look at, so. And knowing that not all the streets were done in the last time for the 3 million also is probably some more clarification and history we'll have to look up on that. Anything to add, Dave?
Nope, other than the maps, we're gonna look at the maps, but it sounds like that's kind of slow process right now, so.
Thanks, Steve. Okay,
So,
moving on.
before we move on, what would be an I'd like to see us on this paving project, every meeting have some type of an action item. What do we want done before we come back in 2 weeks?
The next step is to receive all the maps.
Okay,
And then get the committee set up and address all the maps. There's like, 32 maps that have been submitted. Some of them has pretty good information on them. So we're kind of waiting until they all came in. It's been 3 weeks. So if we're gonna wait 4 weeks before we address them, maybe even address them week after next, or to the next meeting.
Is there some time limit we're gonna put on it, or, I mean,
Well, there was talk about just having a month go by, and if that's acceptable. We're at 3 weeks right now. Then otherwise, once we get the committee set up, start working with them to figure out what the total frontage is for special assessment. Who's gonna assess and how that's gonna happen. Once we figure the dollar amount, or figure out the special assessment numbers, then we'll add our project costs on and come up with cost for each homeowner, and then that'll be probably the next public forum.
what are you thinking you want to cover at the next public forum? What would you want to have available by then? Are you thinking of areas that have been put on the map that might be to let people know that this is a certain area that we're dealing with, or don't you?
Well, we're gonna look through and find out which areas we already have on there.
Mhm.
And then, if there's new areas, we'll meet with Jim and find out if it's a good area, an area that needs to be repaired. We can't fix every curb gap in town, or then we're up to the, the $34 million, but what we're trying to do is at least keep the water off the pavement into the curb and gutter. A lot of the blocks are so flat, you can't get all the water off of them, but.
So what you're saying is, in the next week or two, if you have a bad spot in your street, you might want to bring it to the attention of Jim or Dave or one of the commissioners. Don't,
Yep.
because we're not gonna, we can't keep going back and going back a month down the road, so.
And once we figure out, we get a pretty good idea on what the whole project's gonna hold, there'll still be a final design project where we'll go out in a little more detail and look at everything and get some more accurate measurements and stuff. And through all that, if we find other things, we can add or subtract stuff.
Right. To me, people have to take some effort to themselves if they have a bad spot, if they really are concerned about that spot, that they should do their due diligence and make sure that we're aware of it, and if, maybe it looks worse at sometimes than others, maybe they have pictures, maybe they feel it's worse than we do, and they need to argue their case at some point, because what they think is bad and what somebody else might not think is as bad. So people, if they have issues, they really need to speak up.
Anything else, Paul?
I do have a question, Steve. How, this last project in 2007, it's been about 15 years, and we're paying off after 15 years. Is that what we can expect for life expectancy on this next round of payments? That we're probably gonna, when you guys ran the numbers, would be 20 years. Well, we're gonna have a hard time selling it if our citizens look at it and say, well, the last round of payment only lasted for 15 years, but now we gotta pay for it for 20 years. at some point, they're gonna have to pay for 2 streets and one of them they can't drive on anymore. So what do we need? Is there, you could say it's better, but is there processes that we need to do to make sure? Do we need to have a higher maintenance plan? What do we need to do to make sure that it's gonna last 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, we could always make it thicker, it makes it last, but then the cost goes up. A lot of it dependent on the weather, kind of winters we have, the soils are like, saturated and damaging, but we're trying to make it so it'll last, at least that long as we're hoping for.
Taylor said he's using some new material that should be better than the old.
Yeah, there's a new asphalt mix.
But there again, we gotta have, I mean, we could say one thing, but 20 years or 15 years down the road, we could say, well, we thought it would last 20 years, but now we're.
But you remember that asphalt only lasts so long. I mean,
And I get that I'm not saying that
yeah.
I'm expecting that it's gonna last forever, but I do think we can't just put in new streets and call it good. We have to figure out how we're gonna make this work so that it's gonna last long enough for all of us, so that we're not paying, because there are communities out there that I know of that paid for a water treatment plant, and then that one didn't work, and they're paying off the first water treatment plant, plus they're paying for the second water treatment plant. That's not gonna go over very well, so how do we need to, what maintenance do we need to make sure that we add into this project that we do every year to make sure that it's done right and keep up? And if that means that we gotta hire an outside company to come in and do it, but that it's planned every year that we do this, I mean, we gotta figure that in too, so that we can show that we're gonna do our due diligence on making sure that this is gonna last for years to come.
Is there any cities that you've done in the last 5 to 10 years that have had something similar done?
We've done, we're doing, Warren, Minnesota right now, but, another project we're working on in, Larimore. Larimore actually, their roads weren't too bad when we started them, cause some of their roads were like a half an inch thick of asphalt, but they're on, the edge of the riverbed, so it's all sand. And their soils are so dry and they drain so well that, half an inch asphalt is just fine there. We're putting, a thicker street section in, but the closer you get to the river, the muddier the soil and the harder it is for asphalt to hold up. We do have asphalt projects going on, communities.
Do you have some that have been done, completed already in the last 5 to 10 years?
Park River? And how much was that one? It was a lot. I think that was 3 years ago, right? But I haven't been to Park River either, Paul, have you?
No, but there are no other ones? That's the only one that you can think of that would be in that 3 to 4 or 5 year old range? Or more? I'd appreciate that. Mhm.
Who did Hatton? Did you guys have anything to do with Hatton? They just blacktopped their streets.
I would appreciate that. I think you have my information, so.
Steve, the thing that kind of bothers me, and I think I've talked to you and Jim about it, is we got spots around town here in the streets that, they're all broken up and they've sunk and they're soft, and I always thought, like at the county, if we have a spot like that, they come and they dig that asphalt out, they see what's underneath it, and then they take care of that problem, and then they blacktop it so the problem is gone. But on the streets around town here, how did you guys figure underneath it?
You guys wanna know
just can't see you putting, milling over that. You wouldn't just mill over that spot and then just blacktop over that. You would,
Try not to do that everywhere, that would be to get that back up to that third quarter.
right,
There are some pulled out there.
I think of a lot of the issues, Dave, are from the drainage issue we have in town and the water stands and that makes the soil saturated, and so many of those areas that are breaking up is where the water stands. We don't have the luxury of the drainage. I mean, Steve said, we have 5 blocks where we have to work with little or no elevation. And
right.
the only other option I could see is you start from scratch and you start putting a whole new storm system in and curb and gutter. So you want to step back and don't do the paving right now and spend, I don't know how many dollars to redo all that. And then maybe the streets would last longer. I don't know. I mean, we can only do so much with what we have to work with.
And I understand that.
It's frustrating sometimes, yeah. I mean,
It really is.
we can't even get the water to move 2 blocks,
Part of the project, we're adding some storm sewer to it to help with that, but you can't do it citywide, keep adding a little bit.
You go back to history and it sure was cheap to put the little bit of storm sewer we have in back 60, 70 years ago, but now we're paying for it.
Should we look at more storm sewer? I mean, I know that you guys looked at and did a quick overview of town, but do we need to do a more thorough investigation of all the streets and the storm sewer in town and say, here's where we should add storm sewer so that we can figure it out and look at adding other things in so that we can make our streets last a little longer? And then, do we ask a company to come in and just say, all right, figure out what it's going to cost to fix all of the potholes or a majority of the potholes in town and get the areas cleaned up so that we can maybe make these streets last 2-3 more years, so that we can look at the bigger scope of this project and maybe take a tiered approach of, add storm sewers in first and then add some other stuff in so that we can get these up so that we can get them to last where we need them to be. Because if we just mill it off and put it down, are we just putting off the inevitable of having to do something anyways? And
Well, I
is it
think
gonna
that-
last for 20 years?
I think the slope, getting that pitch in, a good example is over by where we live, on Fifth there. We got that cracking right down the middle where they tried to match it up. Water sits in there all the time, and it's just causing more and more of the cracking to go across. So I think if you can get a better pitch with this repaving project, and it gets it down into the gutter side of it, that it drains too, so.
Well, the water just kind of sits in the middle of the street there with that.
Yep, and then each one of those, where we have the storm outlet, basically they aren't taking all the water sits there, you're exactly right, on both sides of the street.
But then there's places in town where we have it sitting on the side of the road. By my house, it sits for 3 blocks.
And that's why,
Because
because
you can't get it down.
there's no,
So that's not gonna fix
Yep.
it, but we're gonna have,
Yeah.
but in that case, do you need to put a storm sewer in so that you can run it down and get it down to where it needs to go and to get it lifted out? And then the other issue is, do we need more lift stations to get it where it needs to go out?
Yeah, I get a lake on my little dead end every time it rains. It's no place for it to go until it drains to the east there. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I deal with it too. And it's gonna break up that pavement on the east side of my house too, so.
But I'm saying is, do we need to take a bigger look at this and not just hurry up and put new pavement down and be done?
Well, I think we should have the town halls and ask the citizens, Levi, to take and, that's a concern. Let's have those town halls and see how they wanna take and direct, to be able to take and do the project and what the priority should be, so.
I don't know about the rest of you, but that's one of the complaints I hear most is we just got this paid off and we're fixing it again. You know, why is that? You know, is it because of maintenance? Is it because, like Jim says, it's flat and you can't do anything with it? What, you know, what do you
So
tell these
Do
people?
you want 25 years instead of 20? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but what
You
I'm
could
saying
put
is,
concrete down, we could start concreting streets. I don't know.
Just, like I said, I don't think we wanna
No,
be
it's-
paying for one,
Yeah.
for something that we can't even drive on anymore, and paying for the new
I
one.
look around right now and I drive around, I'm looking, and we're gonna pave that, and I drive by it, and it's, you know, yeah, but
I don't, we can't have perfect, nice, black, flat streets. That's unrealistic for any
well,
place,
that's
but,
what they want, and
but, but we do have areas that need work. I mean, I just told Jim one the other day that it was sunken this far, 'cause
and those are the spots I see, I see the valley gutters, and the majority of them are valley gutters, and the curbs that are messed up, that aren't draining, the water stands, and there's no asphalt left, and we had this sweeper sink into one of them, a week or two ago, you know, it's just, and I don't know where to bring that water, you know, so.
that's what I see. I see so much curb and gutter that just needs to be fixed.
You know, and you know what they did is they put in one long run on each end of town, they cut streets down, and they sloped everything to those two runs, and that's what we have to deal with.
I mean, it's better in the newer developments, 'cause they have a little bit more.
Well, they have a lot of storm drains, yeah.
You know, you look at, on the northeast part of town, it all drains to, is it Third Avenue? And when we get 6 inches of rain, it's backed up to First Avenue and everywhere else. And that dip by those apartments, the kids are wading up to their necks in the water because it's so
Well,
deep.
6 inches of rain's a little different subject, but
Yeah.
you don't want it,
Well, it
you
might
don't
be
want it with
4
2
hours.
inches, 2 or 3 inches of rain, but
Right,
you know,
but you know
6
what I
inches.
mean, all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
water's going one place and it can't get out of here because we don't, because we're pumping it all out, yet we have a ditch right there. Can we get it to the ditch to get it to the river?
So maybe we can take and put some estimates about some new storm drainage in there too, knowing that it's gonna drive the price up. Okay. Anything else? Thanks, Steve. Building permit process, we have it in in our packet here. Mike, you wanna talk to it?
Well, yeah, it's what's written, that's what, planning and zoning decides, so.
That's just what you have. Your computer ain't here, so I didn't know if you needed it. You probably got it memorized.
Whoever's not talking, is going to their mic off, that'll help.
I think it's yours, isn't it?
Is it one of these?
Because when it was making noise before, I turned mine off and it didn't help.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
You can turn it back on. So you
Mike,
do you need this?
turn it on and see what happens. I think it's even favorite Terry's.
We're good?
Talk.
There it
Is yours off? And Dave's off?
What we're gonna do is, Mike,
See if it's tight on
basically,
top,
the
you see.
planning and zoning has taken and written down what the building permit process is. And, you know, Mike from, is gonna come, is gonna take and do new homes. Any garages over 14 feet wide and 20 feet in depth will be like a new inspection. Planning and zoning will do inside demos, inside remodels, all sheds and outbuildings except garages over 14 feet wide and 20 feet in depth. And the commission will take and, any new additions changing the footprint of the house goes to the commission first, and they decide if planning and zoning issue a permit or if Midwest Inspections handles the permitting process. So what's happened, for everyone's information is that planning and zoning has kind of consolidated everything, put it into writing, and taken a look at the paperwork that is online for the building permits, as well as working with Midwest Inspection. So, did I get it right, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion or questions that any of the commission has?
Has the paperwork been updated online then?
No, 'cause you guys haven't made up your mind yet.
Is this what you're gonna put on it?
We can, it'll be nicer than that, I just threw this together one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once everything's decided, then we'll update it online, but there's no sense in updating things online when it hasn't been voted on yet.
Who also follows up on these? Do you, Mike, follow up on all, when these projects are done, as far as where decks are put? No, shouldn't we have somebody following up on that? Whether, I don't know who, but I think that to make sure that they maybe said they're gonna put their deck here, or they're gonna put this here, but, you know, we don't even, but we go back and find out that they maybe put it 2 feet higher than they should, or,
I would think that'd be planning and zoning if they want to. 'Cause I can't do it, 'cause I wouldn't know anything. It would be in the wrong spot if I had to do it.
But that goes back to what Terry talked about a while back about the garage that isn't done. So also as the project's getting done, that they say they're getting done also.
I've been over and talked to that guy. So then we have to do something here.
But it's all, I mean, and there was houses that we haven't gotten finished over a year, and do we need to have something in there for that, like Paul says, that follows up and says, is your project done after a year?
well, and I'm not so much concerned whether it's done in a year as much as I am making sure what they said they were gonna do is what they did,
That too.
you know, so.
With the new technologies, would it be something as simple as having them mail or email us pictures of the project?
Depends on the project, I guess. Oh, yes, if it was kitchen cabinets or something like that, yeah, it'd be probably easy to do, but it'd be a start. I just think that we should have some checks and balances that I think we should have, you know, to make sure that something is done. If they said they were gonna put electrical in, that they got electrical in, if they did get it inspected, if it has to be inspected, I don't know what the regulations are, so. And if we don't care, I guess that's the way it stands, but, plumbing, if they hook into the city sewer, is it important that somebody checks that and makes sure it's done? You know, I know there's a lot of comments about, well, if they hire a plumber to do it, well, maybe it's as simple as saying they hired a plumber to do it, but they didn't do it themselves. You know, just to verify that they did actually hire somebody to do it, and it wasn't a job they did themselves. Whether it be electrical or no matter what it is, if they have, you know. But, and it's probably more so for the homeowner down the road that might buy it or something than it is anybody, but.
Like if somebody puts a shed in or does a remodel, and you guys approve it, you guys go back then
No.
and walk around their shed or walk around their remodel?
No.
So if their house was too high, built too high, then that's kind of just,
Well, that's a little different, you know. As far as sheds, as far as anything inside, I don't need to go and look at somebody's kitchen and make sure they did it right. That's up to them, as far as I'm concerned.
Do you want to take and table this for now, Paul, and then have
Well,
a chance to talk
If
about it
if
some
I'm the
more?
only one's concerned about it, there's no sense tabling it, because if I'm the only one concerned.
Well, I would say that it is a concern. I mean,
Mm.
it's no different than a shed. If they say they're gonna put a shed or an outbuilding, do you need to go back and make sure it's what it's supposed to be? And I thought that was the whole point of when we first looked at hiring Mike Blevins, was that planning and zoning didn't have to go inspect all this stuff, but, you know, we gotta find a happy medium here somewhere.
So I'm hearing we'll table it then and have some more discussion. Or does somebody want to make a motion?
I guess I make a motion to table it and kind of just clarify a few more things. I think we're gaining a lot of ground on it, but it's not quite there.
Okay.
So, do you think we need to go?
And I'm not really concerned if they're putting kitchen cabinets in their house, but if they're building an 8x10 shed in their backyard, and then you come back 2 months later and they got a 15x20 because nobody comes back to check it, not that it can happen, but
I see where you're going.
or they move it from they were going to put it here, but now all of a sudden they're moving it 2 feet closer to the property line, and a problem. But I don't want it to be a problem either. So going forward,
It's easier to fix things earlier on than 10 years down the road.
right?
So we'll go ahead and table the issue. I don't think we need a motion to table it. We'll do some more discussion and tweak it up then, okay? Is that okay, Paul?
Yes.
Moving on to the North Dakota Community Foundation.
Actually, Terry, Joyce is here, and we skipped over the 7 completely, and she's here, so I'm assuming she's gonna wanna talk.
Oh, Joyce, you want to take an,
Sorry.
or do you, an update from Mike and Levi, and then Joyce can talk, or you want Joyce to talk first?
Can go first.
Okay, would you like to?
All I came for is to ask if I could get more time.
I can vouch for Joyce. She's been working really hard on that place. I've seen her there almost every day for the last at least, 2 or 3 weeks.
I lost 3 weeks. We had a death, we've had 6 deaths in the last 2 months.
But she has had people over there working on it, and they have been taking a lot of stuff out of there. And I saw her painting up the railing the other day. So she is working on it. Just
And if you notice, they cleaned up the front of the building, and it'll even be nicer looking by the time, Hillsboro days come.
How much time are you looking for, Joyce?
We just have some big items.
No, how much time are you looking for? How much more time?
July and August.
So you want
Plus my kids had to, take their vacations because of their dad's death, and they had to be here for hospice. So we missed almost a month with that.
Would you be okay with us giving you a month and then you come back and ask for another month?
If you could give me July.
That's what I'm saying. Give me until
come back.
July and then come back in July and let us know how you're doing and we can.
It's a lot more work than what we thought because you have to get a hold of people. We've got someone that's interested in the oven, in the big oven back there. And that's so, we're working on everything, but it's just taking time.
So would you be okay with us giving you till the end of July and coming back and if you need?
Great, because then we'll know what time the kids can get some free time.
I would move to give Joyce an extra month.
I will be working there every day until then.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dave seconds. Any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Mike? Dave?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Any yes from me?
Do we want to do the rest of the
Yeah,
business?
we might as well go through the rest of them.
206 4th Avenue Southeast. That would be, I think, one of these. You're having a hard time with. You're having a hard time with the addresses here.
Come off the thing.
Give me 1 sec so I can pull up the correct addresses.
No, I try. I just like to keep you guessing. That's what it is.
They just didn't. 206 4th Avenue Southeast. That one is correct, but I looked at it today. next one down didn't look right. That's where I was getting confused. So with that property, I looked at it today, the grass is not cut, they haven't cleaned up out there. I think it's time that we move forward with sending it to the sheriff's department, which also begs, do you want the beautification commission to take care of the grass issues and we send out the letters for those? Which the same letter should go out for that also. Cause it's about this tall.
Do you have a height limit on the grass in town?
I think
or-
we're at 6.
Okay.
I think that's what it is in the ordinance. Does that sound right?
Right.
I think it is 6.
So I would move that we move forward with sending it to the sheriff's department for a report on that one.
Is
That
this
was,
the one they got convicted on?
Yep,
that was, 206?
that's 206, yep.
Okay.
By the Armory?
By the Armory. Yep.
Do you want individual motions for each one, or do you want to do one motion at?
For this one, I
'cause
think
we've
we
done-
should do individuals for these, cause
Okay.
not all of them are gonna need motions.
Okay, do I have a motion then to,
I made the motion for that
did-
one.
okay, do I have a second?
Oh.
Mike seconds. Any other discussion? Mike?
How long do we give them? He's cut the grass.
This is going to the sheriff's.
Well, let's do this one first and then decide on the grass stuff too, so.
Because you're probably gonna have to have the sheriff there when, if we go in and cut the lawn for them.
Nah, probably not, cause nobody's living there
Somebody owns it, right?
in Fargo.
So they're gonna get charged for it.
But we can go in and cut it and they're not gonna. That's the one thing that. Thinking, are you gonna let me use the lawnmower?
Are you volunteering?
I'll cut it if you give me the lawnmower to cut it with.
Put old blades on first though, Jim.
Well, they're gonna get billed for it if the
They'll
city
get billed
does it.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a lot easier than us going in to clean up an area because we can go in and cut the grass quick and be done.
Correct.
I think it's gotta be picked up before it can be cut.
Yeah, there's quite a bit
Probably.
of stuff in there, yeah.
It was picked up some, but yeah. I think, is it 5 days is what we gave on grass before? I think
I
that's.
think so. That sounds about right.
That's what I-
Okay, so we have the motion. Mike seconded the motion to send to the sheriff. So any other discussion? Paul?
I'm ready for the vote.
Yep.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
And a yes for me.
Which then on the grass, do you want the beautification commission to take care of the grass issues as they come in?
Seems logical.
Okay. So then I'll have Ashley, I just wanted to clarify that as now is kind of the start of it, so.
You agree, Mike? That beautification doing the grass?
Yeah, the only thing we won't deal with it till next week.
Right. So we'll get the letter sent out and then we'll give them their time and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Ticket number 1004, that is Sasha's property. And that one has went to the sheriff's department for charges, and there are 2 charges pending with the court system with her at the current time. And we did see progress, but progress has regressed, went back on a lot of effort. So that one is moving forward in the court.
Joyce, we just did.
Joyce, you just did. She didn't have 2021-001. That one is still, I didn't double check on the court system to see if any progress is made on that one. And 2021-003, I can almost say that it's pretty much cleaned up, at least that nobody can see the issues anymore. That would be the one right next to the one by the Armory. So that one is looking better.
To the east of,
To the east, yep. They still got some work on the garage and stuff, but most of the junk is moved behind the garage out of the way, so you don't really see it. and they got most of it cleaned up out of the yard when I looked at it today. But that one I think went to sheriff also.
I think so.
So we'll wait to see on that one. And then 007, they were closed in 3 days.
No, they closed last month.
Or was it last month?
Yep, it was last month.
Okay.
Yeah, it was last month. And I told him he needs building permits, and he was still getting prices on stuff. Was it last week or the week before when I talked to him? So he hasn't came in to get a permit yet because he's still pricing out how much the project's gonna cost. Which is a lot. He's finding out.
When he asked you how much it was gonna cost, you just said a lot?
No, he he told me it's costing more than he realized, and he also had mentioned that that house with the tarp on Caledonia, he had looked at purchasing that one, but there's something wrong with the foundation, and he said that one should probably be inspected for a blighted or condemned building.
So is that his official notice turning in for
I
us
don't
to
know.
look
He
into?
just he didn't send it in writing. He just told me. So I'm not sure how you want to take that.
But that does bring up there is some that we need to look at.
Right.
That
Okay,
is kind of the update on that.
okay, so we covered everything then on 7. So moving on now to the North Dakota Community Foundation updates with Tony. Anything there?
I talked to Tony last week, and he indicated he was going to have Terry from the Aggie Foundation call me. Apparently, Terry has the details of what Tony wants regarding the new swimming pool requirements, and Terry from the Aggie Foundation has not gotten a hold of me yet, so I will give Tony a call again, and we'll keep working on getting the detail.
Thank you, John. Moving on to the Railroad Park. Any updates on the Railroad Park?
No updates on that, and the mural update, the next one we'll know more after the beautification meeting next week.
Okay, thank you. The 1881 extraction, so that went to Commerce. Nothing new on that. Petition to rezone Riverwalk Block 1, lots 3 and 4. The first reading.
I'll move for a first reading of rezoning Riverwalk Block 1, lots 3 and 4 to R3.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Mike?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Any yes for me? Outdoor drinking ordinances. I went through and there was a couple of questions that I had that just wanted to kind of clarify. The one that I was looking at, it's now F. A lot of us use blowers to, you get that gritty sand and like the broken branches and stuff like that. And I don't think vacuuming outdoors on a patio probably would be working quite as well. But I just wanted to make sure that a blower says not blowing into adjacent streets or parking. I think that's kind of common sense, but a blower does kind of get a lot of that off there. So, and I do use a hose once in a while just to get some of the dirt off. So, I don't think we want to be too specific on that. Kind of use common sense.
Yeah, as long as you're not blowing
food and
Right, and,
food.
yep.
All you should be getting there is light gravel anyways.
Yeah, boy, it's, a lot
And
of
a few
gravel comes in
sticks.
from that side.
I don't read it as you can't do it. I read it as that you just can't blow it onto the adjacent street by those means. Would
Yeah.
that be interpretation of it?
That's from the final ordinance, so it's already replaced with what we did, but I just read it as debris, stuff that shouldn't be there. Gravel, rocks, that's fine, that's garbage.
Right.
Only the red is the new stuff, everything else is in that ordinance already.
Can you guys read that out there? Or do I need to blow it up more? Can you read it? Okay.
One thing on D, this is on the second part though. I don't know which one we're supposed to be looking at. Are we supposed to be looking at the first one or the second one?
Whatever I sent you. What do you mean first or
Well,
second?
there's one, you got an 8.0629.
I just added what JR had. Which one do you want them to look at, JR? This one
Then you go,
or?
you keep scrolling down and you got another 8.0629.
That's an old prior copy, that's from a couple of meetings ago. The one you didn't have on the streets, correct?
Okay,
And then,
so it's the 529, Paul.
I looked at the wrong one. Then. I was looking at the other one. I thought maybe that was the second one, that it was the one. But I guess, I don't know if it's been changed on that first one or not, but you have square footage of the outdoor drinking facility shall not exceed 1/2 of the establishment's current square footage. Now, is that the square footage of the entire building or the square footage of the bar restaurant area?
I don't know that answer.
Yeah, that's from the old ordinance. That's currently what's in effect in the beer garden ordinance, so.
I guess I'm asking, should that be clarified?
As I read that, that'd be everything within the walls, is square footage.
Right, so like, for example, if Terry had way more room to work with, he could have a area as size of half of his building?
Correct. But that would be half the size.
I guarantee you, Paul, mine's less
Well,
than half of what's inside.
I'm not, we have to remember that
Of
we're
the
not
pub.
looking at just Terry. We're looking at the future. We're looking at everybody's establishment. Let's say Vets Club comes and says, well, we want to do this too. Well, before we know it, they could be, how big will they get, So I guess, I just want to clarify to know for sure so that we know, okay, are we going to let them have, if their sitting area is, just to throw out a number, 1,000 square feet, are we going to let them have but their building is 3,000 square feet, does that mean they can have
1,500.
right, so, and it doesn't matter, I guess, but I think we should clarify it.
Would it be
So-
easy to just add in the square footage of the outdoor drinking facility shall not exceed 1/2 of the establishment's current square footage on their liquor license or
Liquor license floor plan.
liquor license floor plan.
Right.
The other one that I had a question about too, another one, patio shall only be used as an outdoor family-friendly restaurant. I'd like to put a / pub area. Because we did come up with a new license.
Correct. Yeah, you can definitely put pub, but that's the clarification, I guess, for the commission is, to my understanding, and from what I've read in other city ordinances, which there's not too many of them, bar was the only one that I actually saw copy, and that's where I stole some of this language from, is it can't be a bar. That's the clarification. It can't just be outdoor bar there, 21 plus, it has to be kid friendly.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you can definitely put a pub, yes, you can
just want to make sure that for clarification that pub, since I have a pub, is this, it's different than a restaurant.
The
So,
follow-up question would be, is do you want to serve as in dispensing out there? Which I don't
Nope.
think that's anyone's intention, but you can definitely bring a beer out
Yep.
there, that's fine. It's just, it has to be a restaurant. Otherwise, it's a beer garden.
Which then we run into where you'd have to have it fenced in and all the other things, what our current one has.
right,
And
that's
that's
why
where
I'm
we
saying
wanna make
pub
sure.
covers it.
As long as, I don't necessarily, as long as it's food friendly, that's what we were trying to differentiate between the two. As long as it's family food friendly, I think you're fine.
But again, I'm operating as a pub, not a restaurant.
But
So
you-
if you make it both, it covers everything.
But what is our definition of pub?
Pub is defined, but a restaurant is 51% food sales. That's defined by state statute.
So, and I don't have to meet the 51% as a brew pub. As a brew pub.
Even with the group, they still have to have defined restaurant.
Yeah, right, but it's different than the 51% that of what you have to take and give to the state as far as funds go.
I'm just saying 51% of food sales qualifies as a restaurant. If it's anything else, it's a bar, it can't be minors. That's the clarification.
Okay, then define a pub for me.
Well, I'm defining a restaurant, anything else is anything else. To be a restaurant, it has to be 51% food sales. Anything else can be a pub, bar, you call it, but to be a restaurant, to be family friendly, can't be minors. That's the 51%.
We have to go through and look at the statute as to what the pub can and cannot do. So, again, I don't think that as a pub that you have to have 51% because it's not a restaurant.
The only exception to the liquor serving statute, at least as I found in Century Code, as confirmed by the league cities, is that you have to have 51% food sales, or another exception is a under 21-year-old working. I can show you that statute, it's the state statute. Otherwise, it's not a restaurant, it's liquor serving, and you can't have minors.
That was not the way that it was agreed to, and that, well, again, I think that we have to define pub as different. The restriction that I was told when we had the walkthrough was is that minors cannot be within 3 feet of the bar, and everything else is family friendly.
I'm assuming that's tied to the restaurant definition as well.
I don't know.
That would be the question I had to follow up.
Yep.
There are some exceptions, there's a 3 foot.
Because the last legislative session, they did change the rules for,
For cities less than 15.
yep, like us.
But we're not less than 1,500.
No, I
We're
thought
not.
that
We're
Steve said.
1,600.
Yep, I know, 1649, but Steve specifically talked about it, and he was doing the research on it, so that's who I'm going by.
That might be a question for him, but then maybe we have to have a separate discussion on that, that's capture the points. I'm just, that's the way I felt.
Okay, let's clarify that.
Couple other things too, as long as we're gonna clarify some things. It says here under outdoor music and entertainment, it says, if I'm reading it right, that they may only be held 2 times per year at each establishment through permits issued by the city. Is that even enough? 2 events? That doesn't seem like very much, but I don't know. I don't have a bar, but you'd think you'd have a lot more events going on outside than more than 2 times a year. Whether the event is, what defines an event, maybe? Is it, an event be considered something like Hillsboro Days, I'm assuming would be an event, right?
The A&R has more than 2 in a year, but just in, no, they're in the beer gardens.
During the beer garden.
Yes, it is live music, I've been there. Yes, like bands.
Say once again, this is an old ordinance, I didn't change it, it's not the red.
Yep.
Violation of
They have a band, what?
They're inside.
Nope, it's a,
Times I've been there, the band was inside.
right, but in the patio, or in the beer gardens, there is a stage and everything. I have seen it myself. Last year the day before the street dance, there is live music there, yes.
That's,
Fence around the patio so no minors could get in there, and I see you just got a chain hanging on yours,
Pardon? I'm sorry, you talking to me, Chuck?
Yes, sir, talk to you.
What was the question?
The question was, in the old ordinance, to have minors around, you had to have up a fence, keeping them away from the rest of the people that were drinking. But I see you just have a little 3H chain going around that's gonna trip somebody and fall and break their neck. That ain't my problem. Where's the ordinance here? Has something been changed? Some of you guys sitting there, can you speak up?
Yeah, and just so you know too, that that's a temporary approval for the chain, and that there will be a railing that designates the patio area both in the front and the back.
Is it gonna be just a railing, or is it gonna be an actual divider? You're talking just an open space with a railing up on top?
Nope, it'll be kind of the bars in between two sections of wood, basically, that split that out.
How can you be open when none of it is like this then?
That's why we come up with the patio, basically changing it from a beer garden to a patio. That,
I got more questions, but let's go on with what you gentlemen are talking about.
okay,
Which that brings up a point on H, under fence and buffer 2, do we want to leave it as temporary fence or other device? Or do we want permanent if we're gonna go on that?
Which one was that, Levi?
H. So it'd be section 0629, section H. Fence buffer. The only reason I say that is if we're gonna have an outdoor, like the A&R, they were made to put up a permanent structure, so if somebody else is gonna do something, are we saying it's okay just to put up a rope, or are we gonna make them put up something more permanent also?
Well, this is 8 feet tall.
For
a
that
beer
part,
garden.
for the
That's
beer
for a beer
garden.
garden.
But if you're doing a patio, like Terry's gonna put up a permanent, at some point, I'm fine with it being there temporary till you get it up, but is there a time limit or so that it's not just a rope all the time?
What's your plans, Terry?
yeah, I asked for the facade grant basically last week, or last commission meeting.
Yep.
And so as soon as they can get it put together, they'll take and assemble it up, because I have to finish off the columns at the same time. So it's the Aventros that are doing it, so it's whenever.
Which, like I said, I don't think it's a problem if it's temporary, but we just don't want 4 years down the road that somebody comes in and wants to put, just put up a rope and we're gonna call that good. I think it's gotta be, in my opinion, it should be something more permanent.
Yep,
Because-
and again, I think that's more where Sheriff Hunt comes in and kind of does that review, and he was the one that approved the temporary chain basically till I got the railing put up.
Right, but by this ordinance, it says, a patio shall be effectively partitioned by a rope, temporary fence, or other device. Do we wanna leave it that way, or do we wanna put it as a more permanent structure?
If I can speak up just as a note, I stole that language from Fargo, which is the only ordinance I can find on this. That's their exact language.
Right.
What Fargo allows is they actually, very interestingly, allow people, businesses, to set up patio areas on public site. And so thus, they will actually just put out temporary fences so that they can have patio seating, drinking, outdoor eating on those bars, and they have to take it down. So yes, you could definitely change it to be more permanent or whatever you'd like. That's just why that language is there.
Right.
And is this ordinance you got up there, does that pertain to bars, restaurants? Or does it have to be a restaurant, or is that a,
Those are outside restaurants.
okay, they're not, but it wouldn't be a bar then, so, okay.
So they're just putting up a fence in when they're using the patio, and then they're taking it down?
Only for those
So if the cafe wanted to do outdoor seating with an umbrella alongside their main, are we gonna try to make this fit their operations even though it's just a restaurant?
I wouldn't think so.
Or say Miller's like today when they had their Rib Fest, you know, and it goes back to charging $150 does, you know, for the license fee for the patio is,
I see this as only for if you're serving
Liquor,
alcohol outside of the
That
building.
was my next question.
Would that be correct, JR? This is only for alcohol? The alcohol part of it.
but again, if you have a pub license, it has all those licenses, right?
Yes, it does. This is just for the outside. Basically outdoor restaurant seating, is the easiest way to say it.
So to go back to Levi's, do you want to take and make a change to that? It gives it a timeline that you have to meet, knowing that, again, the construction costs get pulled a lot longer sometimes. You know, if you set a time limit, then, you know, it should kind of fit with the permanence of it. I mean.
I just don't want to see it something that you say you're going to do it, not saying you, Terry, but somebody comes in and say they're going to put up a permanent fence and it takes 4 years to put the fence up. That's, you know, it should be, you know, within time reason. I just don't think we should have, if we say that it needs to be permanent instead of temporary, we can give variance or allow them to put it up within reason. That's part of the planning and zoning process. That's just my opinion. It's how everybody else feels.
Well, I think we definitely want a fence. As far as when he can get that done, that's between him and the contractors, if we want to get a date. I think we just need, it kind of goes back to a lot what I've been saying about all this stuff, is we do a lot of this highlighting and stuff, and I do understand why, but I just don't, I like to look at a final, what we're gonna do in the final. Now we're having these conversations. I'd like to have JR, you know, anybody that has problems with anything on this, maybe could get together with JR and discuss what can be changed and what can't be changed legally, and then put it on. You know, going back a little bit to what I was saying about the 2 times for the outdoor music, you know, if I was a bar owner, I wouldn't be happy with just being able to be outside 2 times with outdoor music during the year. I'd you know, I don't even know if we necessarily need to put a limit on that, but I don't live next to them either. But and then also, I also think it says in here about the outdoor drinking establishment must be inspected and approved by law enforcement. And I think that I think we should even have them sign off on it, that it's been inspected. You know, just like we sign off on a lot of these things to make sure that they've been inspected or whatever. It's all as simple as putting a line there for the sheriff to sign off that it was inspected and it met his requirements. And that way we don't have to worry about that side of it. We know it was done because he signed off on it. But that goes back to the, you know, I just think, you know, I would talk to JR and anybody else that had problems or questions and see what we can change legally, and then get it drawn up a little cleaner without all the red and everything, and go from there. That's my suggestion, because there's really a lot of questions here, so.
Well, I do like the idea, and the second time that Sheriff Hunt come through, he came up with a good idea too about, you know, either having a can or something where you can look through the vessel to make sure that, you know, when you're sitting out there that it doesn't, you know, walk off the patio. So he actually had some good input. So I think that the important part is getting together with Sheriff Hunt to make sure that, you know, you're doing things legal, since that's the law enforcement side of it. So the second one, he's gone through mine twice now, so. But we never wrote anything down or signed anything, but, you know, I took the notes. So that's just an example of what I've done.
But I think Paul's right, where whether it's the A&R, whether it's whoever's gonna have one, it should be Sheriff Hunt or one of his designees signs off and says, yes, this is an approved establishment and we are able to, it's good to go.
I would agree. I'd feel good about having it.
So when it's roped off, you're roped off completely, so nobody can go
No, for fire.
from the outside in?
For fire, you can't, you know, restrict that. It's just like the doors. So it'll have an entry, basically, that'll kind of a walk-through, so on both the main entrance and the west entrance. So, but
It's
the rest of
open.
it'll be railed off, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a little bit different than a beer garden, because people wanna sit outside and have a meal and, you know, potentially, possibly have a drink to go with that, so you wanna be able to have the visibility of, everything around it, so.
The only other question I'd ask is, do we want to add another portion of it, which gets complicated again, but, you know, just thinking like the Vets Club, when they have their fish fries or their burger nights and they move stuff outside, or do we want to have it in there somehow that they could have it out there and temporarily roped off as long as they have a server outside or a bar serving outside? Because I think that's kind of the important part of it, is that somebody's there watching to make sure that they're not running a kid or somebody else can't get in and get the drink, where, you know, if it's a patio, they can't get in because it's in that area. If it's a beer garden, they can't get in because it's fenced off. Do we want to add something in like that that would allow those type of establishments, if they're having a special occasion, to do those type of things? Or do you want to do the liquor transfers every time?
I think as a commission, making it as easy as possible to do business and do those things is, you know, as long as there's appropriate oversight, you know, I think that that's appropriate, but you don't wanna make it too onerous that, you know, people are gonna be reluctant to be able to go and take advantage of those types of things too, so that's my opinion.
Well, can we just leave it at getting together with JR and answering some of these questions, or, because he's really the only one that can answer them.
Well, and it looks like the only ones that we had concerns on was the square footage, the permanent fence part under H, and G would be the amount of time, or the amount of times for outdoor music.
And then also having something for the sheriff to sign off, I
And
spot
then
on.
the sheriff to sign off, which is added in, and then, well, and there's the question, should we do something like that for where it's temporary and they can move their bar outside to do that instead of a liquor transfer, or do we not want to add that in and leave it as a liquor transfer? I don't want to make JR put work into it and then you guys don't want to.
Well, I don't, you know, Terry's is more permanent. His is something that's gonna be there all the
Right.
time. I don't know if we have to address, you know, the other places that are doing it, you know, randomly during events throughout the year. You know, as long as they transfer their liquor license, it should be good. It's been working for years, so I don't see why we would need to change it.
Well, and the only reason I say it is because this came from a law enforcement person in the community that there may or may not have been drinking out, that they took their beer out in those areas. They just looked the other way. Well, it's not necessarily right, so can we make it so it's right, so it's something that they could do easier, as long as we're doing the changes now.
Are they aware of it? That's going out?
I'm just saying by this one, they looked the other way, because it wasn't a big thing. I'd be in favor of changing it to make it so that if it's something that they want to do, I mean, I know we talked about the last meeting, talked to all the bars and seeing, so did we get that done to see if there was anything?
I didn't talk to anybody.
But I just want to know, is that something that you guys are open to if JR looks into it? I don't want JR to spend 20 minutes or an hour or whatever looking at something that he'll put in and then we're not going to approve.
Did you have the one, just quick too, did you have the one on the eating, on the square footage? Was that one on your list?
Yep.
Okay. How would you see that being put, JR, from what he's talking about for the other organizations? How would you word something like that, just off your head, or how?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, because you're not really, because they're not, and what you're kind of saying is somebody's there and they're having cob on their corn feed, and somebody goes out, that's what you're saying? That's the instance when it could happen?
It could have, like, let's
Or
say,
for hamburger nights when they're doing outside? And
you know, and you could say you're limited to once per week or whatever, that as long as they have an established area where they're gonna have fenced off with a temporary fence, and they have a bar located outside to serve, I think, you know, then they could have drinks out in that outdoor area. Because there again, is it fair to somebody that's going through the right channels to make sure that outdoor drinking is done right? Is it fair that somebody else is doing something that isn't?
I agree. Yeah, that conversation could come up, yes.
Right. And that was the whole point of this, is that, you know, we're trying to make this fair and right for everybody. So if we don't look at this,
So you're talking about the beer garden down there, if they go outside in the beer garden?
nope, this would only be for like a food type,
Like the
temporary food type.
patio.
Well, technically though, when the Vets Club moves out to the parking lot, we've never considered that a patio, have we?
We do a liquor transfer.
Right. And so like
Not
for
all the
Hillsboro
But not all the time, but there's burger feeds that they've had outside or other places at sometimes that, according to this former or current law enforcement officer, that, you know, they were just looked the other way, whether somebody walked out with one or whatever.
And I guess what I was gonna try to take and recommend, that wouldn't that be better to go underneath their license to make that addendum instead of, cause right now you're talking about beer gardens and patios. So unless we specifically say that that's a patio, it would be better to go under the license for the Vets Club itself and say that they could take and have a roped off area.
Well, I think of it more of it's calling it like a temporary patio where they could temporarily have this up for certain amount of time. It's not a more, in your instance, you'd be able to go out every night that you're open and use that patio, where theirs, in that instance, they could only have it open, say, one night or however often. It's not a permanent thing.
And I think it's appropriate, you know, to allow them to have that privilege, so whatever we can do to make it easier.
But it would still be that they'd have to come to us ahead of time, and I think that's part of why it should be part of the ordinance. This one is that it's saying it's separate from your other one. Just a thought.
I think we should get together with, somebody should get together with JR and kind of go through that a little bit. How we could do that, and maybe get a hold of one of those establishments that might do something like that and see what their thoughts are.
Are you volunteering, Paul?
No, I'm not volunteering, so, but I'll volunteer to emphasize the parts that I want to change.
Or should we
'Cause I'm
table
not
this?
gonna speak for the bars, you know, if they have. their
Well, I meant,
opinions on
are
it.
you gonna volunteer to be on to work with the bars in JR?
Oh, I can, but I don't know. The only one that's really falling under what you're talking about really is the Vets Club, because they're the only ones that do the outside feeds that
I
I'm
think
aware of.
there's others that have done it, we just don't necessarily see it as prominent,
Mm,
according to this, what I've heard.
okay.
Well, should we table this then and continue to tweak it some more? And,
I would say you got some work to do on it.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, especially being an ordinance, we have to get it, we should try and get it as, again.
okay, so we'll table this and JR will continue to work with you on it. Okay, moving on to the Armory rental rates. That's the one that came out this afternoon, I think.
No. That's been out for a while.
Oh, that was you're right. This is where we want to see about raising the rates and doing that, okay. Any other feedback you've gotten, Ashley, from anybody out there that's done the rentals?
The only thing they ask is those that are set in stone on our calendar, are they able to keep the rate that it is now, since they have already been put on the calendar and locked in.
I would think so,
How
yeah.
many are you talking?
I'd have to look at the calendar. There's a lot of people that call and book the community center for sure.
To me, it doesn't matter how many have already done it. They should be grandfathered in and,
Starting, whoever registered, if we change it
Starting today.
today, then it should be.
yeah, moving
Okay.
forward from today is when the changes would happen.
Okay, so do I have a motion? Let's review what rates do we want to raise it to for the citizens out there?
Because these are what they are right now.
The top part?
All of it. This is
Oh, all of it is what it is
all
right
of
now.
it is what it is
Oh,
now.
okay.
So you want me to go through it so they can
No.
hear? No. Okay.
This is current, correct?
This is current. Yep. Can you guys read that?
Mhm.
What are you looking at changing? What you don't think it's adequate, or?
What, part of it is, are we gonna add some more facility things to make this more attractive, so that was my thought, we're trying to add some more things in here, so we do the same thing over there, but with that, there's gonna be a cost of adding whatever you're gonna do.
Plus your cleaning costs.
Right, and that's the other part of it.
Does anybody want to take and make a recommendation what we should raise it to?
And is it per day or is it per time? Like if they rent it for 4 days, is it?
So what I have always been told since I started here was they rent it for the day, but as long as nobody is scheduled to come in the night before, we allow them to set up the night before if they need to. But if somebody's in the night before, then they have to come in early the next day. But we don't charge them for coming in the night before.
So it's per use day, so if they used it for 2 days of their event. that's
Right.
what
Yep.
Are you looking more at the community center or both the Armory?
Well, I said we should talk about both, but it was more so the community center
Just
here that-
because of what we've done here?
Yep.
What are you thinking of raising it to? Where do you want? Do you have a number, or do you want our input on it, or?
Both.
Okay.
Well, I guess I can kind of see why we have a lower rental fee for the community center for a resident versus a non-resident, but that's quite a bit of a difference there. And do we want to have a different for resident, non-resident, when on the Armory, basically it's for everybody?
I think it's fair, Rick.
I'm telling you myself, I don't know why you need to raise it up, if it's for local people, and, are the taxes going up so bad you have to raise it?
That's why I'm asking.
Make it affordable, something affordable for the community, that's what I'm thinking. But if there's a need for it, if it's, taxes or whatever, but I don't think it should be that much for you have to get, two-grand vouchers for raising the price.
But also, some of the other things that we need to think about is how long are we gonna keep chairs and tables and those type of things that we probably should be updating and upgrading over time.
But also, we gotta look at it as a service to the community.
And I'm not saying
Yep,
making it $500, but
Right, yep. I don't know, in my opinion, I'd just leave it for now.
I agree with
I
Paul.
just-
I think it's,
The only thing that I think, might be an option is to have a small cleaning fee, since we do have to clean up both facilities sometimes, so. But otherwise, I agree that this is more of a public service to be able to use these things, so keeping it reasonable is, but
If it's not clean, we keep their deposit.
you do, okay.
Yep.
Which, just, so everybody knows, the, community center, it's $100, and, what is it for the Armory? $100 deposit too, so for cleaning fees, it would, if you have that option, that would help.
So the Armory, Ashley, when they rent the Armory and they set up 200 chairs and tables,
Mm-hmm.
do they have to take them down?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And stack them?
Yep.
Cause I know when Ray was doing it, he used to take all of them down and,
They're supposed to take them down themselves and put everything back.
okay.
So, do we wanna go through a motion to keep it where it's at, or do we just wanna table it?
I'll make the motion to keep it where it's at.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Paul seconds, any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Mike? Dave?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Yes for me also. Moving on to new business, the facade grant for the right implement.
We
We got cleaning contract.
yeah, can we do the cleaning contract on new?
Okay, so this is where we added the, okay, so I'll turn it over to you.
We opened it up for, put it out there to have people apply for the cleaning job, and we got one person that submitted, and she also submitted last time. However, this time she added on the city shop, flooring, and bathroom 1 time a week.
Do you have a copy of that you can put on the
Yep,
screen? Okay.
sorry.
No, just for the people on.
Paul, you wanna read it while I put it up there then?
Oh, so it'd be a service for city shop, flooring, and 1 bathroom, 1 time a week. City hall, office, and bathroom 1 time a week. Armory, hallways, gym, and 2 bathrooms 2 times a week. Community center, kitchen, large office, and 2 bathrooms 1 time a week. They figure 24 hours, and the total cost would be $600
For the month.
for the month, yeah. We're kind of back where we were before, limited options. We were lucky to find Sonia last time that did it, and,
I think that's a fair amount.
I would move to approve this bid.
We have a motion to approve from Levi, do I have a second?
Second.
Mike seconds, any other discussion?
It's, do we need to do the city shop too? Really? I mean, that small area, I mean, couldn't the guys just sweep and, I mean,
No.
I know they're busy.
No, we don't have to, Dave. It wasn't
I know
my,
I know they're busy and everything, but
okay, it wasn't my input. But no, we can handle that.
but then it comes to, well, they come over. If it's
think it
less,
was-
well, they come over too, though.
It was an incentive to get them
Incentive to
here
get more,
for more.
yeah, so.
But no, we can do
So if
that.
they say, so you say, okay, we're not gonna do that, what are they gonna take, how many hours are they gonna take off?
Cause she's coming from Hatton, and just speaking as I used to own my own cleaning business, this is really good. You're not gonna find much better.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Dave, and like Jim said, they can do it, but, if you take that off and they say, okay, now it's gonna be, obviously they're gonna do it 1 time a week, that's 4 times, even if, what does this come out to, like 24, 25 bucks an hour? So they might say, well, for $500, is it worth it for me to come over? And they're gonna say, I'm not even gonna do it, so.
well, and I agree with you. And I'm not faulting Jim's crew or anything like that,
No,
but
no.
I just thought, that small area down there, and we gotta have a woman come in and clean I mean,
Well,
I
that's
don't.
not a real small area, there's a lot of room to clean, a lot of things to clean down there.
Done in the past, so no, it's not an issue.
And I'm not faulting you guys. Don't get me wrong. I just throwing it out the way I think that.
But if we're not gonna have them do it there, we're not gonna have City Hall done then too?
And then they don't come over.
Right.
So, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If there's enough to make it worth their while, they'll come over, but if it's not, they'll probably say, I'm not coming over
Yeah.
for $300-400 a month.
get it.
And so,
You want,
Practice 2 hours for 20 hours is $600.
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering why 2 times a week for the Armory. I understand why the need is there, but that's an extra trip just for one thing.
No, community center also. Isn't it?
Once a week.
Once a
I'm
week.
sorry, Terry.
It says once a week.
So
yeah.
they were before Sonia, he was doing the Armory 3 times a week. And I do believe that's what's in the daycare's contract. So I'm assuming that is probably where the 2 came into play, because Sonia was only doing it once, where Tom, when he did it,
So,
he did it 3 times a week.
I was just trying to think if there's,
She's probably not gonna come over here to say all 4 of these in one day. She's gonna split it up, so she has 2 days. She can do 2 one day. and
Okay.
do another.
so it does pay for her to travel twice then? Okay. Otherwise, I was gonna recommend that if Dave wanted to change it, that add another one of those for the Armory, but you satisfied with it now, Dave?
Yep.
Okay, go through the vote. Did I start? Yeah, Paul?
yes,
Mike? Dave?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Okay. Now we move on to the right implement facade grant.
I don't really understand this whole thing here. And the pictures that he sent with.
are we doing 9.1 first, or what are we doing?
Yeah,
That
you're
is
right.
the facade, yeah.
No, well, you got facade grant overview too, so I'm not sure what it is.
That's all right. So the pictures that he sent, am I in the right, the pictures are part of the facade grant? Is that what I'm getting, or correct me?
Yes,
Okay.
the pictures go with the facade grant.
Well, where are these pictures? These pictures are from when they did the streets? 81 or
Yes.
200?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
yes.
Okay, so I don't get the facade grant part of it.
Same issue. I thought the sidewalks would qualify, but this is the same kind of issue.
If you read the facade grant to what it says, it doesn't say anything about concrete.
Only on the permit says replace the concrete.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that was our fault for taking it. He dropped it off the other day, and I guess Sarah and myself and Julie should have taken a closer look at that. We thought he had said parts of the building he wanted to get covered.
Do we want to take and table this one and send it back saying that,
What
it,
does the facade grant say if it doesn't do any concrete?
well,
It's not specific, I think isn't that kind of what,
it's
why
generic.
9.2 is there?
Yes.
To talk about that? Because this was brought up before, correct?
Facade
Our
grant
last-
renovation can be used on any exterior portion of the building that is visible to the public. This includes the front, back, and sides of the building, exterior doors, windows, shutters, gates, and other decorative elements that are part of the facade. It cannot be used for roof repair.
And it can't be used for sidewalks, driveways either.
Facade is meant as the building. Facade specifically says the front of the building,
Correct.
but I think we were saying, well, let's fix any sides of the building.
Including the concrete?
Building.
Building. Correct, thank you.
Well, if it's for concrete, then we have to deny it, right? Cause that isn't part of the facade grant.
Is that I mean, that's what I'm saying. Did we take that stance at the last where it said concrete portion, but there was other parts of it, so.
If I remember, I thought we were gonna review that again to see
We
if
were.
that's something, as of right now, the way it stands right now, we couldn't approve it the way it's written right now.
Correct.
It'd have to be changed and then. Yeah, this is a tough one because there is some properties that have, bad sidewalks and bad this and that, and maybe if it would be helpful, if that would be a step for them to improve it, would we want to include it? We only allow so much a year, I think we should have the conversation.
Well, and then for Disabilities Act and some of those things having good, through there on sidewalks and stuff, to me,
Mhm.
it's all part of the beautification too.
Well,
so-
to me, yeah. Mhm.
Maybe Tim could come to the next meeting and explain this a little more, if
What-
you'd like to.
I don't think we not necessarily need them to come. We basically have to decide if we're gonna do anything with concrete and consider that as, it's, cause to me, it'd be more beautification than, you'd almost have to change it to more of a beautification thing than just strictly a facade.
I think there's a history part of this that we need to research before we go too much farther on it. So I think we need to table this.
I think some of the pictures says that.
Okay, so we'll table this, but we have to go back, like Paul says, and review what the facade grant will cover and not cover when it comes to concrete projects.
Which would be the next item we're gonna talk about.
Okay?
What do we need to know, what do we need to know or to deal with that? How are we gonna approach that as?
I think if we just put on the application facade, meaning the building, portions of the building.
No, but I mean, going forward, is that we're not gonna do anything with cement going forward?
I don't think we should. I think part of it is to beautify the building portion. That was the intent when we brought it forward, was to help those owners to put in new windows or put in a sign or do tuck pointing on their stuff or put in new lights. Those were the things that we looked for to
I think it's pretty clear.
help enhance the building itself, which then enhances the beautification of town and enhances the value of the building and all those things. That was the point.
Well, I can definitely see that too, but we also have areas that if there can be some concrete or side work done, that might be as important as other things too, so.
It is, but then I think if that's what we're gonna do, we should find a different project or a different fund for that part of it.
So on 9.2, we don't wanna change anything then, is what you're saying?
I don't,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think it should involve concrete. I think on this project, I'm open to, like I said, if we wanna do some other type of project, if there's funding for it, I think that would be a good thing, but.
Okay.
So,
Cause if we look at sidewalks, do we need to look at residents too to help them with some of the sidewalks? Cause there's a lot of sidewalks around.
Okay, so we're not approving the right implement facade grant. We don't need a motion, we're just gonna turn it down, and then he can resubmit with further clarification then, correct?
Well, if it's concrete, the way the way it's written right now, if it's concrete, there's nothing we can do with the
Right.
facade grant, if we're not gonna change that.
Okay, so then we'll move on to the facade grant overview of qualifications. That's what we've just been talking about, so we're gonna table that and review it some more, or we're just gonna say no sidewalks, no concrete, we're just gonna keep it the way it is? Is that,
For now, anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
okay? And moving on to Mark's, building permit.
He's just asking for a tax exemption. He must already have a building permit. Right?
The building permit's attached.
Was that, I can't remember, was that kitchen? Or what was that?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the tax exemption from improvements. Any other discussion? Levi,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Any yes for me? Liquor license transfers for Hillsboro Days.
I'll move to approve the liquor license transfers that were submitted.
All of them?
Yes.
All three.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Paul seconds. Any other discussion? Paul,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Levi.
Yes.
Any yes for me? HEDC gaming site authorizations.
I'll move to approve the HEDC site authorizations.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
Mike seconds. Any other discussion? Dave,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Levi.
Yes.
Any yes for me? Street closure request and insurance for Hillsboro Days.
Did we have a date, or Paul, do you have a date?
Do we? I would actually like to shut that street down Thursday night, but I don't know if it'll happen or not. Over by the courthouse, but
Well, it might happen if the pavement's put down.
we might not even be working. Might not even putting the tent there. So we'd be. So there you go, a waiting pond if it's real hot. Yeah. So, but you got your pen ready, and JR can clarify me. We're gonna be so Friday, we're gonna be shutting off. We wanted to do it a little bit earlier. What time did you want to do it? Oh, she has it on the screen. Okay, got it.
As usual,
Want me to read it?
I think we can all read.
I'll just find it on mine.
I didn't see it in the packet, or was it in
Yeah,
there?
it was. Where at?
I don't remember seeing it, but that don't mean nothing. So.
She didn't put it
Maybe I
in
didn't
order.
put it in the packet, maybe I accidentally just put it on Teams. But I thought it
Well, I would like to hear an apology
I'm
for
so
making me
sorry.
look bad.
It is not in the packet, but it might be on Teams.
Your apology is accepted.
Thank you. It's on Teams though.
Why don't you read it real quick, just so.
Okay. So street closures, First Street Northwest, east of the courthouse from West Caledonia to First Avenue Northwest, Thursday, June 16th, Monday morning, June 20th. North Main Street from West Caledonia to First Avenue Northwest, Friday, June 17th at 3 p.m. for kids tractor pedal pull. South Main Street from West Caledonia to First Avenue Southwest, Friday, June 17th at 3 p.m. for the car show.
So just to clarify two things there. The Friday items would just be until the events are done. I don't know the time, but it's time. They start at 5, I think it's for both, or I think it's 5 for both. And I think usually it's wrapped up around 7 or so, but whenever it's done, we're gonna pick up the stuff. The courthouse one is kind of more main concern is where we put the tent. I think in years past, we've only done Friday morning. We're thinking it might be easier for getting help if we do Thursday after 5.
The tent is gonna go straight on the south side of the closure block there like it did before.
It'll start, it'll
Yep.
start on the north, right by the driveway, so by the driveway into the post office.
Yep.
Then this north end will be right there, so they can back a trailer underneath, and it's 100 feet to the south.
That's the only question I had was, is if we can do that on Thursday and then still let the post office parking lot be available, which it will be, and then we can finish it off on Saturday. Yep. So I think that, Jim, do you see any
Yep.
problems if we do
No,
it?
that's fine. Sounds good to me.
I'll move to approve
Do you
with the
have-
contingency that they can use Main Street if the pavement doesn't get in, so they don't have a pool.
He's planting the seed. He's planting the
Planning
seed,
ahead.
Jim.
There you go.
Do you have enough closures you can drop there for us Friday afternoon?
Is that what we've done in the past?
Yep.
Okay.
And if we were short, Dave got us some extra ones. If you didn't have enough, he found us some from the county when he worked there. But,
Yeah.
He was working there today.
yeah, I know, but
I think the park board has.
you don't have the
some too.
clout you used to have.
No, I don't.
The only thing I was gonna say is ours are getting so beat up and old. If the park board would let us, those are very nice looking. It would just make me feel better. I don't know. We'll get whatever we need.
Do you want to talk to the park board? Do you want me or
Sure.
you? Okay.
So we have the motion then?
Yep.
We use, Main as a backup if we don't get it patched, okay? Any other, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dave seconds. Any other discussion? Let's start with Levi.
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Mike, Paul,
Yes.
and a yes for me also.
I just thought of this, that we probably get it on there, 9.7 if we can. Are we doing fireworks again this year? We should probably plan for that, because that's coming up.
Don't they come with a request to the city usually? In the past?
Thought they did last year.
Yeah.
I think Tom
With the
Olson
contingency,
usually.
basically, that if we got rained out or something, that they would use it in a future event,
Right.
right?
Yep, I think that's how they did it last
I
year.
just wanted to make sure, normally they come in, but I wanted to make sure they had enough time to order if they needed to with the way.
I'll reach out to Tom. I think that's who we talked to last year.
Do we want to make a preliminary, just approve if they do want to do the fireworks right now today, and then leave them, give them the latitude to take and figure out what they're going to do?
I would approve to
Okay, so
have
we'll do-
fireworks as we did in the past years.
And also put in there that the fire department runs the fireworks and they get paid $100. I think there's 4 guys that do it, so.
Okay, and that's the arrangement Tom's always had, right?
Yep.
Okay,
And
so,
you said $400, Dave?
Well, they usually have, it's 4 or 5 guys they have, and they each get paid $100
okay.
for,
Yep.
Okay.
for lighting the stuff off.
so Levi kinda, let's phrase it this way, that, just like previous year's fireworks, activities on the 4th of July, we will approve preliminarily, as long as they follow the same, parameters as they have in the past. Is that kind of the way?
Yep, that's what I was
Okay.
thinking.
So do I have a second? Mike seconds. Any other discussion? Okay, Mike?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Any yes for me? That covers everything tonight then?
Did we also approve the insurance as well? I know the city has some type of, actually, if you remember what we did last year, those were things that I know.
I included that as part of my motion.
Yep.
Okay, never mind. I will listen better next time. And then just for the line, can we have street sweeping done before that, whenever it's possible, just before Hillsboro leaves? Mainly the kiddie tractor pull area on Main Street.
Did I hear please?
I said it a couple times.
And thank you.
You'll be out all next week, I'm sure.
Okay, I just want to know the kiddie area there. It's just all the kids are about 3 feet high and the dust is about 4 feet high.
Yeah, everybody's a little edgy, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, now we'll open it up to the citizens. Anybody want to address anything? Chuck?
Couple things,
Do we need them to come up to the
Step up to
podium?
the
I don't,
podium.
is that mic, doesn't that work anymore?
They don't work because I sit at home and I don't hear who's ever talking.
Oh, okay.
I guess the one thing I wanna know is, how much money
the airport? What's it allotted in the budget?
It's, what's the tax? It's
I
part of the
could
tax
care less,
receipts.
but I had a guy ask, wanted me to find out tonight.
I'd have to go back and give you an answer to that, Chuck.
Okay, look it up so we can get that. One thing I've got to comment on tonight, planning and zoning. Yeah, you should go back and see if these damn things are done and done right. That's part of your job, I would think, rather than just write out a building permit and, well, we'll add it to the taxes. I really didn't care for the idea when somebody said, when they passed a motion here, well, that's good for now anyway. Well, what are you gonna do, change your motions at every damn time a guy comes up and asks for something different? I don't really understand the thinking here in some of this stuff. Likewise, when we're talking about this street improvement, I think we should hold back just a little bit and take a longer look at it. I think Jim hit well on it. Levi mentioned it. I think we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a broken leg. And it's time, I think we just sit back and get some committees put together rather than have two guys from Timbuktu or three or whatever and analyze what's got to go on here, guys. You're talking, by the time they pay interest on that so-called thing right now, probably $18 million. It ain't 12.8 million, right?
But that's why we're, incrementally going through. I think the committee
Right, but
recommending
let's
and
get
then
the
more.
horse
Yep, and
in
then
front
more
of the
town
cart
halls.
rather than
Yep.
put an overlay on, and then 5 years from now, we gotta dig up every corner in town here because we got the biggest drainage problem in the world, and then we redo the streets on top of it again.
Well, we don't wanna do it,
Well, all
Buxton
I'm
did.
saying is, let's put a little more thought in, let's not be so damn gun-ho to get him happy and get some more answers, get some more prices on different projects.
But I think it's important for us too, Chuck, to make sure that the citizens continue to have these town halls so that now, just like you're doing,
Well,
we can get where the important parts are for the city too.
Well, that's true. There's gotta be some more discussion than just sitting here saying, well, let's get together and we'll do this now and that'll take care of it. I guess I just, I was gonna ask the gentleman here, and I asked it at the first meeting we had on the road project, what was it gonna cost to blacktop the road past the county shop out to the ball field, which is probably the busiest darn road you've ever seen right now, from little kids at 6 years old to my oldest granddaughter. Do you have that figure?
No.
Okay.
That's already in that's already included in the project, though.
It wasn't the first one.
I think it
It
was,
was not.
wasn't it, Jim?
No, it had Paradise west of town included in the project,
No,
but it didn't
thought
have
it
that.
was.
That's when I saw Chuck.
Up to the
Wade.
apartment building.
No, because Cody Harstead was here from the park board, he asked for it, and I asked for it.
Yeah,
And
and
they
I
were
think
gonna get back.
I was mistaken at first, but when we looked at it, I think it included at least up to the driveway at the apartment building. It might have been just a small section on the south side.
It might have been a small section, but at that night, it wasn't, because if you're gonna do it, you gotta go do it up to the.
It was more than I thought, but yeah,
Yeah.
it did engulf some of that.
Anyway, we got lots of time, and if we don't do the streets this year, next year, whatever, it don't matter, but there's kids coming up every day, and that's what's gonna make this city grow someday is our younger generation. I sure as heck don't want anybody hurt out there on that, road the way we got it presently. So my honest opinion is put the project off and let's get some committees together and do some actual work on something. One thing I was gonna bring up, and I guess I'll bring it up regardless, our city office. Back about 3 months ago, a person called there and said that she ran a cleaning service and she'd like to clean. Okay, we'll get right back to you. 2.5 months later, she'd never heard back from the city, but now everything's been taken care of. What I'm saying is, somebody is not getting the messages given to you or whoever. I don't know who it is, but I do know that this person, in fact, did contact City Hall, did talk to a lady, which is 3-4 probably. We shouldn't have that. If somebody calls in there your message should be just as damn important as mine or the gentleman here. So,
Yeah, to my knowledge, Chuck, no, I was never told that anybody had.
no, and I'm not blaming you, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying maybe somebody in there's gotta be told, and I realize that a lot of people answer the phones, but if nothing else, I've worked at a lot of places, a lot of people have pads that thick that they write down every phone number that comes in. Just something to remember, it, doesn't mean nothing to me, but, the lady that did the cleaning, she was, mystified when I told her, oh, they're looking for a cleaning lady again, and she said, well, I saw the ad in the paper after you told me, but when I called them, they said they'd get back to me, and they never did. Get the ball game going here,
Would there have been a way that she could have emailed that might have been more, that it then?
She personally talked to the person at City Hall.
Right, and I'm just asking if there's a more permanent way that if an email would have went to Ashley or something, then that
Oh,
probably.
I have, that's up to you, you
It does.
guys are running the show, I don't have nothing to do with answering the phones,
But
and
it-
I just, you know,
we don't-
behooves
we
me
don't
that
mean to drop
Ashley's
them.
working her butt off to get somebody to clean,
Yeah,
and we have people calling here that,
yeah, and,
Yeah, that's a bad deal there, let that happen.
well, and maybe it's a lady that's gone, I don't know, because this goes back, you know, when we first went through this rigmarole, before we had the last lady hired, isn't it true, Larimore, and you're doing their streets? Didn't they have some that were so bad that they turned them into gravel streets for a while?
We're actually turning the whole city into gravel right now.
Okay,
Because the price for the project was so high that, we did utilities and curb and gutter,
yeah,
and then they're gonna come back and pave it after a couple of years.
or a few more. I don't know if any of you are aware of that, but there's all
Yeah.
kinds of things like this going on.
well, we don't want ours to go to gravel.
There's lots of
There's what
cities
they
that are
did.
doing it now.
They did storm sewer and everything though, right?
Storm, sanitary,
I think it was
water.
28 million, wasn't that what was quoted, you know, in the open press, that, like a $28 million project? And then they were smart, because after driving on gravel for a while, they'll come back and do the paving and approve the specials, you know, it's.
But
kind
they
of
have
way-
the horse ahead of the cart, so that's
Yep.
all I'm saying.
And I think they added an addition into that one too, if I remember right, Steve, that west addition, the 28 lots out on the west side of Larimore. I think they added some in there, if I remember right too, so.
Yeah, we've added another,
Thank you.
smaller addition, 6 lots since then, just this summer.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, do I have a second? We're adjourned.
Steve, you have a second?